my papa's knee, thinking to myself, what a man I'll be if I could ever live to grow up and seem half as strong. With his red man shoe, Stetson hat, he'd clear his throat, take me back to cane pole fishing at midnight and whistling songs. I'd say, Papa, just one more if you hurry, 'cause I want a story on the way my mama wasn't raised, walking to school in barefoot days, holding on every single memory. I want a story on the night you almost died, shooting down planes from a northern sky, fighting for our peace. I want a story. Every Sunday nights would roll around, he always knew where I'd be found, sitting by the wood stove, waiting on a hero's dream. We'd always talk about the lessons learned, why we shouldn't love life's twists and turns, how God keeps his hands on what we need. But when bedtime came, I wanted one more journey. I want a story on the way the world was changed, man on the moon and JFK, marching for the right of every soul to be free. I want a story from the times of love at first sight, 57 years in the blink of an eye, your secret's safe with me, but I want a story. Now every night I tuck my son to sleep, and those starry eyes are staring back at me. I want a story on the way my daddy was raised, working this land and amazing grace, sitting on the front porch singing with the family. Yeah, I want a story from the eyes of a young Marine, yellow footprints, sea back green, few and far between. I want a story. I want a story. I want a story. Oh, I want a story.
Oh, yeah.
Man, there's so many things I could say about that. Like, no one even notices that a bee stung me on my head.
Well, don't be giving away the secrets yet. Hey, that was awesome. Hey, listen, before we get started, Gamble, good evening, everyone from Los Angeles. I'm Tom Lamog, an instructor with the Cyber Chapter for Guitars for Vets and Cav Arts, the Challenge America Veterans Arts Community. Welcome to Song Sung True, a veteran's view, where tonight we feature the stories and original songs of Gamble Alexander, a U.S. Marine Corps veteran, Purple Heart recipient, and Nashville-based singer-songwriter who will share his experiences and insights about serving in the military, transitioning to civilian life, the long road through recovery, resiliency, and of course, his intimate relationship with, of course, music, guitar, songwriting, and such. But first, having enlisted at the age of 18, Gamble bought his first guitar on a weekend out of boot camp, where he went to a local pawn shop in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, then started playing the guitar at Marine Corps installations around the world. His service began in 2004 and included deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan, where he sustained massive injuries affecting his mobility, hearing, and speech. Music, education, and the support of his family and friends played a major role in his recovery, which continues today. It's 2023, and Gamble has since written a number of his own original songs, which are influenced by Southern gospel, traditional country, and folk. Gamble is actively recording in the studio and is performing live in venues in and out of Nashville. And we're going to take the next 60 or so minutes to talk about these experiences and more. Shooting that video, there's a lot in there. You're right. But the B story, please tell us more about it.
The whole video went great. We shot it all in one day. But what you can't see is that in the last scene, right before we're finishing up, because we're driving down this road, a bee literally stung me right in the middle of the forehead, and I was like, dude, we got to do this because I'm not allergic, but it's on my face. And like literally 20 minutes later, I had a knot, like this big on the side of my forehead.
That's one way to wrap up production.
Yeah, hey, don't realize how much goes in the film.
Oh my goodness. Hey, the things that stick out to me on that video, first of all, you had that scene with family towards the very end, the family around the table. Mm-hmm. Were those members of your family?
Yeah, so everyone in that entire video is my family. The older gentleman is my grandfather. His name's George, but we call him Pappy. And then the young boy is my nephew, Bowden. He's a wild thing. And to be honest with you, if my grandfather wasn't there and he didn't do exactly the way he did it, I don't think that thing would have turned out the way it did, because that kid is wild. And then the teenage boy is my younger nephew, Braden. He kind of looks like me, and he's also a guitar player and is quite talented in his own right. With he likes that new age LA style rock. So I'm excited to hear what he comes up with too.
Very cool. Now your theme on that particular tune obviously is about storytelling, and at least in your bio, you mentioned the fact that it actually has a lot to do with your grandparents. And is that something that was common in your family when you were growing up?
Yes. So I was raised by a single mother. So my grandparents, I spent a lot of time at their house. And so I relished that time with them, though, because even though they were strict and old school Southern Baptists, I grew up watching old Western cowboys, like just Gunsmoke, every movie by John Wayne to, I could probably quote them all. And it just gave me a certain light to my childhood, because also it just made me feel kind of like I didn't belong in my generation. And the storytelling that goes along with that older generation is just different. You listen to 90s music and it's very storytelling based, even before that to the 50s, stuff like that. But nowadays it's melody driven. So I'm trying to keep up, but still keep the story. So that was kind of the point.
Oh, excellent. So your introduction to storytelling, obviously, there was something that sparked an interest in the writing, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think, for a long time I was just a guitar player and I sang, barroom songs. And I did it to a point where I was playing live in San Diego when I was stationed there. And then I noticed so many talented people who could sing those songs, but not a lot of people that could write. And so I just set out I've always written book form short stories, and really, really grew up reading a lot of adventure style Southern series, Mark Twain, even Edgar Allan Poe, which isn't necessarily Southern, but just like more, I guess you would say, less modern writing. And it just translated into music very well. I thought I found music to be easier, honestly, because I could write an unfinished short story and somehow, some way along the way, finish a song from that short story if I chose to.
Now, were your parents involved with storytelling or songwriting at all?
I think that through other ways of storytelling they were involved. Like I said, I was raised, pretty religiously an old school Southern Baptist, and in religion like that, parables and teachings of Jesus are always taught as stories. Mm-hmm. And so I was raised to be able to communicate those stories to other people, in a way to share salvation. And it just translated to music effortlessly because I'm, a chatty person, I guess.
So how did music come into your life?
Yeah, once again, my grandmother and grandfather played gospel music my entire life for church, and but I never played an instrument until I joined the Marine Corps. Like you said in my bio, I just shied away from music. I always played sports. I always thought music was a little bit, you know, for the girls or whatever you want, however you want to call it, the arts. And then the second that I had all this free time, I'm like, man, I got to learn a skill or something. Well, I might as well pick up something that is something I've never done before. And I picked up a guitar. And what's funny is I actually bought 2 guitars that day. I bought a red one and an electric blue one. I sent the red one to my brother, and I kept the electric blue one for myself. And it got destroyed in the deployment, but my brother still has the other one, and he's never played it.
Oh, jeez. So that was the first time. That was the first guitar you ever bought. Then was the whole boot. What made you want to do that? It's kind of like you're like. I mean, you're finishing up boot camp, and the first thing you want to do is I got to get me a guitar.
Yeah, what it was, you know, like you get out of boot camp and you go to these schools, and all these guys are standing around in the smoke pit, and somebody's got a guitar, and everyone's just like, it's the only time in the military I really saw people just get along effortlessly. And I was like, man, that's really cool. Like, you know, they could have been from Texas, they could have been from New York, whatever. They could have played anything, and people were like, yeah, you know, if they wanted to sing along. And so it just kind of sparked an interest, and I was pretty fortunate that almost all of my roommates throughout my military time were musicians in some way, shape, or form.
Oh gosh. Well, that's really wonderful. So this is like the early years, obviously, right up until boot camp. So you had exposure to songwriting, storytelling, and then of course the exposure to music. And it wasn't until 18 that you finally got that first guitar, which is that's a bit of a wait, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that you look at some of these guys nowadays. I mean, I think Billy Strings and these other guys started playing when they're 6 and 7. I'm like, man, I'm behind. I gotta hammer in some practice time today, babe.
Late.
Take over. You got the dishes.
Oh, good grief! Hey, let me step back for a minute here. You know, this is before you joined the military. I'm just curious. I know that a lot of our guests this evening, obviously, they're guitar players, but also they're veterans as well too. One of the questions that usually comes up is maybe what inspired you to actually join the military?
Yeah, I mean, 9/11. I mean, I think I had to wait a year. So I was either a sophomore or a junior. And I just remember, you know, sitting in homeroom class and watching the Twin Towers fall. And, you know, I went to a pretty small high school. There was 12 of us in one grade in that time, and 6 guys and 6 girls, and 5 out of the 6 guys joined the Marines. You know, it was just one of those experiences in life that it just changed my way of thinking.
I know you brought some original songs. Now, here's what's very cool is that we caught you at a time where you have been so busy doing music, recording music, playing music for others. And so, you know, I don't really know what you've got planned for us, but we've got a group of people who are, you know, aspiring guitar players and maybe even some songwriters out there who are going to be paying very close attention to what you do. Would you like to go ahead and take a moment now to play one of your songs for us? And maybe you can tell us a little story behind it.
Yeah. So the first song that I'll play, I actually recorded this as a bluegrass song. I was pretty fortunate to have a really good band that backed me, but I'll play it acoustic today, and I'm playing on a Gretsch resonator, which it kind of gives it a specific sound. If you're a guitar player, it kind of sounds more banjo-y, but I think you guys will like it for this traditional Western picking pattern. Maybe my faults, maybe my upside. Okay, the song's called What Makes Me. Makes me wanna love every woman I can see. What makes me feel death ain't real. We're all lost in the world between. What makes me chase the crimson break
like I'm racing the setting sun. I guess I live life on the run, running from pain just like I'm running from the law, running from everything that shows my fatal flaws, running from love 'cause I can't stand to find the truth. What makes me is what makes me run from you. What makes me wanna leave everywhere I've ever roamed. What makes me call living lost the only saving grace I've known. What makes me think I could be anything other than the shadow of my father's son. I guess I live life on the run, 'cause every time I find myself I'm shackled in those chains, and my heart starts moving and I'm lost inside the fray, running from pain just like I'm running from the law, running from everything that shows my fatal flaw, running from love 'cause I can't stand to find the truth. What makes me is what makes me run from you.
They want to hear more of your resonator. Let's talk about that resonator
Yeah.
for just a moment here. So many choices out there, obviously, to play guitar, but you chose the resonator. So let's talk a little bit about that for the audience who's maybe not really had an opportunity to get to know that particular instrument. But what is it that's different to you playing
It's
that
pretty
style of guitar?
Honestly, it was just a choice for me because where I play mostly, you know, the only way to get people's attention is to just be yourself. You have to be yourself, but you got to be different. And I've always loved the fact that resonators kind of have a tinny, banjo-y, thin, really thin sound, especially on a G string or a drop D. You know, you're not going to get the bass out of it like you would a full body guitar, but that tin sound kind of matches really good if you have scratchy vocals, or, you know, if you can kind of counter it with your semitones. But specifically for me, this guitar is, I do play quite a bit of just really heavy strum patterns. Like that was like a walk down. That was probably my lightest song that I play. And so I need something that I can really, and it gets a louder sound, because basically what they do when you play down here is they put you all at the same level, you know, like everyone's, and then you got to figure out which part of the microphone fits you and which part of the guitar, and it's just a whole tinkering process.
Mike Delaney says, I think it's a great choice and it looks terrific.
Oh, thank you.
Are you playing with a pick, or are you using your
I am
fingers
playing
on this
with a
one here?
pick. I use a pretty thin pick, a Dunlap. It's nothing special. I just yeah, I keep a pretty thin pick, but that song I also finger pick it, you know. It's just that when you get into this metal down here for a resonator, if you're finger picking, you can kind of get caught up on these discs. So I stick to a pick with a resonator.
Yeah, of course. Is there anything else? Any inside tips or tricks playing a resonator that the audience needs to know about?
Oh, I mean, the action is probably the hardest thing to get down because the guitar is meant to be played with a slide.
Oh,
So like
is yours raised?
yeah, and so also it really helps me too because when it's raised like that, and I go to play a standard acoustic or an electric guitar at that, boy, I don't even have to touch it. I feel like I'm just like gliding over it, and the notes are there. So
you have to think about, okay, not so much pressure. Don't need that much pressure anymore when you're playing electric or even an acoustic for that matter. And who made that one? Who made that guitar?
Gretsch. It's just a $350 model. It's nothing crazy about it, but it does have some. Yeah, it's got some really good sound to it. Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, it comes acoustic electric. So I plug this in to a foot pedal that I can kind of tinker with the sound a little bit better, but it doesn't really mesh well with Apple products, so I'm not using it.
Oh, you're Apple and a pedal? Yeah. Wait, let me think about that. What pedal do they make? All right. Well, real good. Shall we return to our conversation at hand? Yeah. I want to kind of just touch a little more on your career in the U.S. Marine Corps.
Okay.
Let's take you up to 2006. This is about the time that you were deployed to Iraq, initially you would be infantry, but you went on to something else, and that was really fascinating. But maybe you can tell us a little bit about what you were doing for the Marine Corps at that time.
Yeah, so actually I was at an artillery battalion. So they call them infantry, but everyone knows that 03 is the only infantry MOS. But in the Marine Corps, they say every Marine is a rifleman. But anyways, no, I spent my first 2 years in Japan, once again playing guitar and just twiddling my thumbs. And then I took my first set of orders to deploy, and I went to basically a throw together unit in Camp Pendleton, and I picked up a secondary MOS because that was the next thing that could get me in country. And so I went to school for 3 months and became a civil affairs liaison for the first time in Marine Corps history. It was stood up by George Bush, and it was a part of the counterinsurgency program. And basically what that gave us was the abilities to go and meet with local leaders and religious leaders of an area and establish projects that would reach out to the community. And so it sounds like the cushiest job, but in all honesty, I kind of despised it because, there were some regulations. We weren't allowed to wear our flax around some people. We weren't allowed to wear certain protective gear, but, they're armed. So anyways, the civil affairs gig was really cool because it led to longer deployments, which I was really happy about at the time. So I was in country for 18 months for my first deployment, which was a really big learning curve, to say the least.
Anything memorable from your time there in that role that you're in?
Oh, just so much stuff in a truck, like I've never been so miserable in a truck, but also I can road trip now and have no problems for the rest of my life because I'm like, wow, at least I'm not wearing a flak inside of a Humvee, but a lot of convoy operations, a lot of moving, a lot of security. And I just took to it. I just loved it. I just loved the guys. I loved the job. I loved, kind of the solidarity of it, and the fact that I really only had 11 guys that I interacted with my entire 18 months there, other than the random people that I wasn't in charge of talking to them.
And you had a guitar with you at the time, obviously.
The whole time.
And concerts, were there any that you gave that while you were
at
there?
that point in my career, I was playing in the smoke pits. That was my first talent stage.
Wow.
And I used to smoke, so it's probably terrible for my voice. It's probably why my voice sounds all dried up possumy. But yeah, I started playing then and came back, and then kind of started playing more in bars when I got back from my deployment. And kind of started taking music more seriously as far as making money from it,
Do you remember any of the songs you played that were quite a hit?
Oh, they are very inappropriate for this moment. It's mostly It's mostly country drinking songs, but
Inappropriate.
I don't want to
Oh,
promote
good
my
grief.
previous alcoholism to anyone else, you know.
Oh, gosh. Well, let me take you a few years into the future, 2009, Afghanistan. And how
Yep.
is that different? How is that different from your time in Iraq?
Well, it was very different because I was brought into I was brought in to do a support role for a remote province of Afghanistan that was having problems. And basically, when you're in a support role of any nature, um, with a unit that you're not really attached to, you basically got to do every job that you can find just to kind of keep, you know, busy. Because I really would only do maybe 5 missions a week or something like that. But then on top of that, I would fix trucks or I would clean guns or whatever. But I spent, I want to say 13 months, 13 or 14 months, um, basically my first year in Afghanistan just doing that. And then I kind of landed in these bigger roles because of my work ethic to be able to go out and do these missions where basically we were gathering intelligence through the use of civil affairs, what I did in Iraq. So we would promise a local project and then use that to gather intelligence for things like if they wanted to know if a significant value target was coming through the area at a certain time, you know, a lot of those military tactics that you hear about intelligence gathering.
But there is a special story that you had shared with me that I think might be worth mentioning.
Yeah, I'm comfortable sharing that.
Okay.
Thank you for asking in that way. But no, you know, you never expect the life-altering things to happen to you. But I just preclude this story by saying that I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my brothers and sisters that were there with me that day. And basically, you know, what happened was is we were put into a situation where you're in hand-to-hand combat um, distance from your enemy, and I was struck in the head with an axe, and basically was in the middle of a river and knocked not out, but knocked into a daze. I would say would be the best way to describe that, and just sustained quite a bit of skull damage and hearing impairment, different things that impaired my ability to walk and to balance and to hear myself talk and to hear myself sing. Um, and it's kind of funny looking back at it because at that point in my life, I really felt like my life was kind of over. I was 25 and I was in a wheelchair and I couldn't remember to turn off the stove whenever I cooked a pizza. I couldn't remember, you know, the last time my son ate because he was an infant. And it just took my people around me to remind me of what it was that would pull me out of it. And
Mhm.
I'm just really appreciative for things like Guitars for Vets and other nonprofits that do these types of things because it really is. It could be something you've never done before. It could be something you used to love to do. You never know what it is. You just got to try it. And you just got to stick with it and do it to the point where your brain gets all itchy and then you put it down for 5 minutes and do it again.
Yeah. But I'm seeing the responses coming through on the comments thread. And yeah, there is a story that you shared with me about that guitar that you
That's
had
right.
with you. Tell us about that story.
Yeah, so basically I woke up from um, what what they would call brain injury, brain surgery. And as I woke up, you know, the nurses came into the room and are checking on me, and then they basically tell me that my unit has sent me a present. And knowing my unit, I had no idea what that was. I didn't know if I was in trouble or something, but they actually ended up sending my guitar, and the nurses were so excited because they were like, they told us you play and that you're amazing and blah 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 blah, and we just want to hear a song. And I was like, I mean, you know, it's only been a couple hours since someone was in my skull, but let's try this. And I tried to sing them a song, an old song too, just because it really wouldn't have been hard to sing. But I felt so bad after like maybe it took me a couple days to realize just how terrible my hearing was in that ear, because it was I was so tone deaf. I bet you it sounded like a possum trying to sing country music.
Well, you got the group to, yeah, they're cheering you on here. Great for recovery. Great testimony to the camaraderie of the Marines. These are comments that are coming through. Listen, it's that time for another song. You got one that you can play for us? What you got?
I wasn't gonna play this song, but I think I will. I kind of was playing it while we were doing a sound check, and you kind of heard a section of it. But
ooh, what is it?
I know that I'm a veteran and an artist, but I really try to shy away from writing Toby Keith style, what some people would call veteran music, or patriotic music. That's what it would be called.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I don't love it, but because I feel like so many people do it, and some people do it corny and some people do it well. But this was a song that I wrote with, her name is Bonnie Bishop, and she is a Grammy Award-winning songwriter that I stumbled across on a ranch in Colorado. And we wrote this song together, and I just filmed a video for it and submitted it to South by Southwest like we were talking about before this. So
that's awesome.
I'm really excited about that, and I haven't practiced this in a day or two, but I'll get it. All right. This song is called Wounded Heart. Yeah. These four walls could say anything, surrounded by the pictures, whispers of your name, the love and all the memories like needles in my veins. And these four walls could say anything. These 3 years turned my heart to stone. Back before my dog tags were the only pride I'd known. They should have buried me with honors and never sent me home. 'Cause these 3 years turned my heart to stone. I sell off everything I own, hit that open road alone. I'm living through battle scars, mending on my wounded heart. These 2 wheels won't never turn around. I'm lost out on the highway where the wind's the only sound. Searching for a purpose in this life I'm living now. And these 2 wheels won't never turn around. I sell off everything I own, hit that open road alone. I'm living through the battle scars, mending on my wounded heart. All I have is this one guitar, and every song I sing carries me back to where you are. In a life that worked out perfect, I would hold you in my arms. But all I have is this one guitar, mending on my wounded heart. Thank y'all. So I was submitting this this thing to this film that I was working on, and I just wanted to share this for a second because it almost dropped me to my knees. But I was reading the statistics from the Department of Defense on veterans and veteran crisis and veteran suicide, and I put it in the video because it just like I said, it almost dropped me. But there have been 30,000 veterans who have taken their own lives since 2001, since the beginning of Operation Enduring Freedom. And in the same time, we lost 7,000 of our brothers, to actual combat. And it just it bothered me, but also it just blew my mind because I do think back to my deployments, and I think back to my guys and the ones and twos that I lost. And then I think back to the 10s and 12s since we've gotten home, and I just, man, I wish that I could give everyone that thing that they're interested in that draws them out of that darkness. And I hope that it kind of shines through in that song.
This song, is this your first collaboration in songwriting, or is this something
co-writing? Yeah.
Wow.
So I Want a Story I wrote
Powerful.
by myself. Yeah. And I must be the luckiest person because literally I ran into this person on a horse ranch where she was vacationing, and I asked her nothing about music. She's mentioned nothing to music about me. We followed each other on social media, and I was like, Grammy award-winning songwriter. And then 3 years later, I put that I Want a Story out, and she wrote me immediately and said, we need to write a song. Oh. And I was just blown away, and that song came right out, and I've been holding on to it for 2 years.
Oh, that's awesome. So you said there are plans for that song, obviously.
Yes.
Can you share anything with the audience as to when to look for it, what to look for, and all the particulars? Or is this something?
Yeah, so one of my big dreams and one of my big goals as an artist is to carve a pathway where not just for me, but other veterans that have similar aspirations and different perspectives on storytelling can use art to reach a broad audience. And what I mean by that is like film festivals. There are things other than playing in a bar that you can do as a musician that make impacts on people. And so basically what I wanted to do was take that song and create a one-time performance in a room with my images of my deployments and my images and video footage captured of me and another female veteran who is not, I'm not dating, but we made it look as if we're dating in the video to represent divorce. And there's all, there's statistics around that as well that are in the video, which are, if you deploy to a combat zone, you are 65% more likely to face divorce. And that stat alone was staggering to me. And then as you go further down into it, as divorce and separation from the military is the #1 cause for suicide for veterans, it's just, it just hit home to me, and I wanted to represent that in a very specific way.
Got a comment here. The National Veterans Creative Arts Festival competition is awesome. Well, yeah.
Wow, just dropping bombs on me, okay?
Dropping bombs. Well, maybe now's a good time to mention also Challenge America and Cav Arts. I mean, we're seeing an increase in the number of members. Veterans. It's free to all veterans if they're interested in learning more about the arts, music. Of course, Guitars for Vets has got our learning center there as well too. But yeah, we're on board with how art can go ahead and really influence, the outcome for a number of our veterans.
And I think that if you look at modern music, you see that there is a trend towards real people who have been through things that you can relate to. And I feel like that's everyone in this room. You face something. It's not a 20-year-old teenager singing a song about love, And I just want other veterans to know that, like, one, when I first started singing, my roommate told me, hey, maybe you should just play the guitar. And two, it just takes time. And it doesn't matter what anybody else tells you about where you should be, because I'm I'm not 19 years old and playing these songs. I've lived a life already, and now I'm ready to communicate that to the world in a way that makes a difference to my community.
We need to talk about music. We need to talk about more of what it is that you're doing. But before we do that,
Okay.
let's talk a little bit about. We'll continue on with the songwriting, but you've written a number of songs, and
Yes.
that basically means putting the words and the music together. Do you have? I know lately you've got like 3 that you want to present today, but do you know how many songs you've written, and how long does it take you to write them?
Yeah. I would say somewhere between 7 minutes and 2 years. Um,
Fair, that's fair.
it just depends on the song. And I would say that the biggest thing that I would give to someone who's interested in songwriting but doesn't feel like their guitar or their vocal performance is there yet, I would challenge you to go to YouTube and type in whatever style music you love, backing tracks. And I would challenge you to listen to those empty tracks and figure out where your voice could sit and where a writing could sit. Because I don't care who you are, if you listen to words without music, your brain naturally puts things there. And so I would challenge you to do that. And it also, you can take that track to any producer in Nashville or any producer that plays piano, and basically they can replicate it in a way that sounds different but is yours. And so I would just challenge other veterans to look at that process, because I feel like if you can play the guitar, like you kind of feel like maybe I could songwrite. But if you can't play an instrument, it's like, no, I can't do that. Only musicians can songwrite. Well, no, that's not true.
So on the comments thread, yes, this is from Gary. Yes, it does. And the healing power of music is fantastic. And from Frank, I did a brain injury program, and art therapy was one of the things we had to do. I thought it was stupid until I did it. It was one of the best activities there. And I'm not sure who this is from, but focusing on playing the guitar on creating art keeps the focus off of what's bothering veterans, PTSD, anxiety, depression, etc. And backing tracks are an awesome resource. And we've got one more here that's come through. As you can tell, you're leaving an impression here. So let's see. Baltimore, who's one of our recent graduates and instructors, he wanted to thank you. He did say something along the lines of thanks for telling the stories, and it's just been encouraging. I'm a combat infantryman of Desert Storm, and I'm so lucky that my wife is still hanging on with our relationship. Thank you for sharing.
Dude, to those veterans, man, go give your wife a hug.
Absolutely. All right. So, in all that, in the years that you have been writing, do you find that music or does the melody come to you first, or do the lyrics come first, or it depends? How does it come to you as a songwriter?
I think it has to be dependent, because anything can strike you at any moment. So sometimes I'm just whistling and I'm like, wow, I kind of actually really like that. Like the other day I was whistling and I was like, and it was very flat, but it was, and I was like, hey, that's a melody, And so I just started writing. But other times I'll hear a specific note in a song or a progression of notes, and then I'll get back and I'll try to figure it out on guitar and then pull up the song or whatever, and then switch it up to something that's different. Try to stay within the same key, but switch it up. But probably my favorite is to be in a room with other musicians and let that just naturally flow. I feel like that's the point of why co-writing is so successful. You get the best of everyone. So,
I have to tell you, you've got a third song, and I'm going to make you play it because you offered. So, to our audience, Gamble had 4. I said, hey, if you can give me 4 songs, and make sure to fit them in. He had that 5th one ready, so we're just going to ask him to play his encore right now, and then we'll get to the 5th song later. But you have been so busy writing songs, and now that you're stepping us through what your creative process is, and words and music and such, what is this one that you have that you can share with us about this song?
This song, the one that I'm going to play is the title track off of this album that I've been working on. And it's a very different feel than any of the other songs that you've heard because I kind of felt I actually wrote this song first. And I started with, once again, my family, and I looked at kind of my relationship with spirituality and religion. And the song is titled Wicked Ways, but basically what I boiled it down to was just that once you kind of let the devil in your life, he kind of tends to stick around. And so I had some you know, alcohol abuse problems when I was in the military, and since then I've moved away from there, but I like to revisit it as a writer, looking back and nitpick the things that I thought was right and then turn it on the listener to kind of give them my perspective now. But this song's called Wicked Ways, and basically it's about addiction, but also your spirituality through that process.
All right.
Try not to tap your toes.
Give it up for Gamble Alexander, everyone.
Well, getting high and wasting all my precious time, I don't know why I ever chose to live this way. When they throw me in the back seat of an old tour van and push me right back up on stage. Well, living life inside the fast lane, and I hear my sweet mama pray. Oh Lord, now won't you let 'em make the next damn town hell change his wicked ways. But these wicked ways won't let me be. Must be something in that rock and roll that makes my soul run free. 'Cause when I know it's gonna let me down, drag me through the street, these wicked ways, they won't let me be. Well, I grew up on that hellfire, fearing that brimstone. But nothing changed me faster than the first time I went wrong in that Southern Baptist parking lot with a bottle of Jim Beam, knowing that my wicked ways gonna be the death of me. But these wicked ways won't let me be. Must be something in that bottle, Lord, that makes my soul run free. 'Cause when I know it's gonna let me down and drag me through the street, these wicked ways, they won't let me be. Screaming down the hall, Lord, there's padding on the walls. Why should every day feel the same when I've got a reputation for needing medication? And so tell me now, mama, little sugar baby, what's your name? 'Cause these wicked ways, they won't let me be. Must be something in that woman's love that makes my soul run free. 'Cause when I know it's gonna let me down and drag me through the street, these wicked ways, they won't let me be.
Wicked Ways.
Awesome. All right. Gamble Alexander with us on Song Sung True Veterans View. Before we continue our conversation, let's kind of fill you in on what we're doing at Guitars for Vets. Guitars for Vets is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Over the past 12 years, Guitars for Vets has refined a guitar instruction program aimed at providing veterans struggling with physical injuries, PTSD, and other emotional distress with a unique therapeutic alternative. G4V pursues its mission to share the healing power of music by providing free guitar instruction a new acoustic guitar and a guitar accessory kit in a structured program run by volunteers, primarily through the Department of Veterans Affairs facilities and community-based medical centers. Please consider donating to support our mission to put music in the hands of our heroes. www.guitarsforvets.org. Anyway, Gamble, we are like in the home stretch here, and it's time to ask the guitar student focused questions, because we have a lot of guitar players aspiring to become, people can actually stand and play and sing and maybe even go out there and tour. I don't know. It's possible, I suppose. So let's talk about guitar for just a moment here. The first question is the biggest challenge with you learning to play guitar.
Chord changes.
How so?
I've always had the rhythm in my right hand, and it took me so long to get the ability for my left hand dexterity after I was injured. I felt like I did relatively well as a beginner, but everyone struggles, to pick up things that are actually usable. But because I did it so much, I did feel like within about a year, I was able to do pretty quick changes. But after my injury, it took me probably full another year before I could really have the timing down where it wasn't making it like a dead string sound for the majority of it. And I pick pretty heavy, but they say action helps a lot with that. But personally, I think that it has a lot to do with your ability neurologically to squeeze your hand after a TBI can be very different. So
now let's flip the coin. Let's talk about ones that you've mastered that you believe that you are, I can't believe I'm doing this.
I think I've mastered the walk down.
Nice.
So to everyone out there that really feels like, like musically you want to kind of figure out what's something that fits you. For me, it was the emotional tug of a walk down or a walk up. Because when, like in the beginning of that song, when I go, that's very Johnny Cash and it's very like country. But in the other song, when you walk it down, it's almost like, all right, am I in a Western movie? Like, is this spaghetti? And so each of them has its own little thing. And then another song that I was writing the other day is Walking It Up. So it's just the A minor. It's just figuring out where you can tug people's emotions with your chords.
Now, let me ask you, any classic guitar riffs that come to mind time and time again that you just can't get out of your head?
One of my very first, I wouldn't call him a guitar teacher, but he was my roommate in the Marine Corps, and he would make me play Metallica every single day for him. Because
prove it.
He was a jazz guitar player and he went to college for it, but he loved playing note for note songs. He would put on the track and he would play it note for note, but it drove him crazy if someone wasn't playing the rhythm for him. And I bet you it took me a couple months to get those songs down, but now all I hear is Metallica 1, Enter Sandman is definitely another one he loved. Dun, 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 dun. I'm like, you found it.
Now, are you playing electric guitar at all, or are you playing primarily acoustic?
I do play electric, but I am a rhythm player. I'm definitely not well, I shouldn't say it like that. I am not a solo guitarist. I don't play both, but I have my current, what I'm learning currently is slide, which is why
nice.
I'm also playing on a resonator to strengthen my fingers, but become more familiar with it. And I just love the sound of alternate tunings on a slide. So,
Guitar heroes, do you have any?
Guitar heroes? I like people who can do the basic things over and over again and make them feel different. So I'd probably say people like Johnny Cash. That last tune that I just played was a Johnny Cash tune, EAB7. Anyone who knows Johnny Cash knows you can play 20 of his songs with those chord progressions. But I really also modernly, I do like Chris Cornell as far as a singer-songwriter type rock and roll. I felt like, unfortunately, it led to his own demise, but he spoke in a way that was relatable to people who have been through mental health crisis.
Very cool. Let me read some of the things coming off of our thread here. So from Matt, even bad art can help heal. Thank God for the healing power of music. Frank would like to know, what was the first song you played?
The first song I played was called "What Makes Me."
That's new, right? That's a new one.
Yeah, I've recorded it, and there's a funny story to that that I'll just share really quickly. But you never know what's going to happen in Nashville, because you go to a recording studio and you're like, "Hey, I want to record a bluegrass song," and they get the players. Well, I did that through my studio that I just found. I walk into the room, and every other musician is quiet in there when the guy who was in the parking lot with me also walks in, and I'm like, "What's going on here?" And they're like, "Do you know who that is?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "That's Robert Plant's fiddle player." And I can't remember the name off the top of his head, but the guy just has so many cuts. I didn't know what to do. I was like, "Cool." Um, but what was
Stairway to
crazy
Heaven
was,
solo.
yeah, he charged the same amount as the other people who weren't so famous, so I was happy for that.
Oh my goodness. All right, let's see. Chord changes. My struggle too, says Gary. And several programs out there to help veterans write songs. Operation Song Freedom Sings USA, Songs of Survivors, Songwriting with Soldiers. I believe our last song sung through a Veterans View, Jesse Freeward actually was doing some work with songwriting with soldiers as well too. They're all awesome organizations out there. And
Absolutely, there's a ton.
yeah. Well, let's see here. We're a little after the top of the hour here. Let me go ahead and close with these questions, and then stick around. We've got a video of a song that Gamble had recorded a while back, and featuring some of the snapshots off of his Facebook page, his YouTube page. And I don't know if do you have like a website where your music is at, or are we steering people to your Facebook page? Or
I would probably say Facebook or Instagram would be the best. If you don't use those, I'm sure you can ask Tom for my email, and I can reach out to you individually, or other ways. But yeah, I think that right now the best place, in all honesty, is to have a social media following, which is what I'm working on currently. So that'd be the best place for you guys, if you don't mind.
sure, you know me,
Yeah.
Tom.Lamog at guitarsforvets.org. um, so is there anything you would like others to understand about military service?
I mean, I feel
Shifting
like
gears
probably
here.
most of the people in this room have a pretty firm grasp on what I've been saying in my perspective. If the only thing that I would kind of relay is this is you don't realize how much your perspective is valued in this industry. And every time I get into a room with songwriters, I never lead with the fact that I'm a veteran. But by the time that it comes out, people are like, "Yeah, that totally makes sense." Because your perspective that you've lived, it's more than just what most people have done, you know? And the fact that you volunteered, none of us were drafted. Well, maybe some of you drafted, but no, I wasn't drafted. And so what I mean by that is that the personality that it takes to submit yourself to service like that, it fits very well in this industry. And a lot of people tell you if you don't make it before you're 20 in this, that's not true. Pursue your dreams, and eventually it'll happen. You'll have your dream come true with creating music that you love.
Last question.
Okay.
For aspiring guitar players, are there words of wisdom you would like to share with them as they continue their guitar journey?
Oh, that's pretty deep. I would say learn something every day. Learn something new, whether it's about a part of the guitar, a style, someone who played it before, um, you know, someone who's top of their game right now. Learn something new every day. And if you do that, by the time you reach 3 to 5 years of playing, you're going to be better than 95% of the people in the world, because you're going to have reference and context.
Got to keep on growing, as Eric Clapton put it.
Got to keep on growing.
Keep on growing. Well, listen, Campbell, thank you for taking this time to share your stories and your songs, your original songs you've been working on lately. There's a question here: which Facebook profile to follow? I think you have a couple that are out there, and
I
maybe
don't know how
even...
that happened, but I released that one song, and then a couple of different people must have made a fake one. But there should be only one, and it's at the beginning of the next video. It's actually me in a cowboy hat, and it's a black and white photo.
That's the one. I think it says Gamble Alexander. The other one's Gamble Alexander Music, I think is.
Yeah.
How do I know this? I've been looking for your material for the last few weeks. And by the way, don't worry about the bio. Don't need it. Listen, I just want to say thank you again. What we're going to do, everyone, is we're going to leave you with a song that Gamble recorded called "Devil's Bride." You want to tell us a little bit about that song? I know this was written by a couple of other songwriters, but obviously you found it to be something that you wanted to record.
Yeah, it was written by a Canadian artist, songwriter of the year, and Canadian artist that is a blues musician. And I really, when I moved to town, I wanted everyone, if you heard the beginning, the I Want a Story, it's very clean cut country. And this is kind of the direction that I'm heading, more bluesy, more rootsy sound. And I feel like it kind of fits my voice. I don't feel like I have to put it into a box. I feel like I can kind of be a little wild about it. So.
You throw me water when I'm drowning. You seal my kindling when I'm cold. You give me matches when I'm burning, and pennies for my gold. You got a heart as hard as diamond. It shines like a piece of coal. Buried deep in the ground, like your cold black soul. You got one hand in my pocket, the other's on the spade, sending me to battle, into my early grave. I tried like hell to leave you, but you keep calling me back. Your love is like a freight train, and I'm tied to track. No soul on earth could love you, no man can satisfy. Only hell's on fire could ever warm you. You should be devil's bride. You should be the devil's bride. You should be the devil's bride. You should be the devil's bride. Throw me water when I'm drowning.
Campbell, that was awesome. Who's your harp player on that one? Whoa.
This guy named Bryce O'Neill. He's he's little known. He's crazy, man. He's good.
Well, yeah, that's for sure. Hey, listen, I'm going to open everyone's mic, and if you would like to say your farewells,
Absolutely.
things and so on. But before I do that, for Guitars for Vets and Cav Arts, a Challenge America Veteran Arts Committee, thank you for watching. Songs Sung True of Veterans View. I'm Tom Lamog from Los Angeles. You all have a good night.